podcast made by basketball fans for basketball fans. From the hottest takes, news, analysis, and passion for the sport that we all love, this is the Fast Break Pod with Finn James and Will Tremaine. Welcome into the Fast Break Podcast, the podcast made by basketball fans.
For basketball fans.
Finn James.
Will Tremaine.
Back with another episode. We're here for episode 16. Yep. As always, a whole heap to unpack. As there always is, 2 Breakers games in round 12 of the NBL. Some monster performances from some of the boys around the league too. An NBA Cup. We get into the business end of it now, so we thought we'd, of course, highlight some of that too. But Will, world news, where are we at with that?
Well, first off, cricket, Black Caps, they're leading in the third test, Finn. I'll let you go in a little bit more into detail on that. What's happening?
I mean, you could call me a cricket expert, but I'm far from it. But I do have a love for the sport, of course. Day 2 of the England versus Black Caps third test at Seddon Park. Positives, considering we got absolutely flogged in the first 2 tests, but some very good positives to take away so far at the end of day 2. Obviously, this podcast will be up by the end of day 3, so fingers crossed the boys continue. However, we opened the batting yesterday as we got put in at the crease by England as they wanted to bowl first. Put up a total of 347 after about a day and a little bit in the first session this morning. Some very good performances from our opening batsmen. Obviously, Will Young came in for Devon Conway with the birth of his child. They put up a decent partnership to start the day. And Mitch Santner coming in for the squad for this game. Nathan Smith was dropped. He put up, I think, 74 and the tail end as Will O'Rourke just sat there and blocked the ball for as much as he could. So 347, a decent total to put out at Seddon Park against the Pommies. Put them into bat, and a great display of bowling. Bowled the Poms out for 143. Absolutely insane. Will O'Rourke was on fire, was on for a hat-trick ball at one stage. He took 3 wickets. Mitchell Santner, 3 wickets with the ball spin at Seddon Park. Didn't think that one would happen. And Matt Henry took 4 wickets as well. Tim Southey yet to take a wicket in his final game for the Black Caps in Test cricket. But overall, very positive, completely flipped the script, and we're doing very well. So hopefully we continue some good form as the boys start to bat. I think we're 31 for none coming to the closing stages of our day 2. So fingers crossed, day 3 is much the same. Will, UFC, what's been going on?
UFC Fight Night, the last one of the year. Covington versus Buckley. Main event hasn't finished yet, but Navajo Sterling, the Kiwi lad from CKB, his fight's just finished, wrapped up. He got a unanimous decision win in his debut in the UFC. Lots of positives, also a few things you can take away from that constructively. His opponent was very tired at the end of that fight, Finn, and looked like he could have got him out of there, but still a domination on the feet. Clear unanimous decision win for him, so good to get his foot in the door. 1-0 in the UFC now, still undefeated overall, and yeah, he's 27, so got a bright future ahead of him if he can continue to put some big wins together in the light heavyweight division.
Underwhelming fight from somebody. I'm not the biggest combat sports fan, Will, but I was expecting a knockout from Navajo in this one. Obviously, he's done some pretty good things in some of the grassroots and professional scene over here in New Zealand. I was expecting at least a second round knockout. Gone the distance with, I mean, you called him a can.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I expected the knockout even in the first round. I thought he should have got him out of there. The guy he was fighting was yeah. I mean, he's a fighter, so he's in the UFC, so he can't be that bad. Of course. Ultimately, he was, I think he was 0-2 in the UFC, and Nav had him kind of pretty gassed throughout the most of the fight, and there were definitely multiple opportunities for him to finish if he just put together a bit of combos. But he kind of hesitated a few times. It looked like he was real. There was one moment where he was visibly hurt, his opponent, and Nav kind of was just like lining up the punch, but not throwing it. He was trying to wait for that perfect moment, whereas if he'd maybe just gone in with a bit of a flurry, he would have finished the fight. But still, a win's a win.
A win is a win.
So, yeah, onwards and upwards for Navajo Sterling.
Not really much else around the world. Surprisingly, quite a quiet week. The only other things I could probably take away is Wellington Phoenix going down 2-1 against MacArthur in the A-League, and Auckland City will be playing tonight as well. Auckland FC, may I add. So hopefully they'll continue their unbeaten streak in the A-League. So that'll be done, starts at 7 o'clock tonight. It'll be done by the time this podcast goes up. So hopefully Auckland FC get a dub there. But I think that is all for the world news.
Yeah, so let's get into the NBL, shall we?
NBL round 12, almost wrapped up. By the time we finish recording, obviously, the other 2 games will be done that are tonight. We'll give our predictions at the end for those 2 games, of course. But Will, first game of the round, other than the Breakers Tassie game, which we'll get into as well. Bullets versus Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. How did this one play out?
Yeah, so the Bullets came away with the win in this one. A bit surprising for me personally. Bullets 116, Southeast Melbourne 108. So Brisbane are actually going on a bit of a run here, Finn.
Yeah.
I did have them as one of my dark horse teams going into the season. I was quite high on Keandre Cook. He's looking like an absolute bucket. And in this one, he had 33 points. So, yeah, definitely led the way for them. Tyrell Harrison continues his impressive form as well. He had 23 points and 12 boards, so a monster double-double there.
Yeah.
And also a great showing from Angus Glover, 20 points. Did not see that coming. Nathan Sobey led the way for Southeast Melbourne with 25. He's been quite quiet for most of the season.
Yeah,
He
he's
started quite hot,
Turning it around.
and he's turning it around again, so
Matt
good to see
Hurt,
that.
27 points as well. So quite surprising to see the Bullets get the win with
Yeah.
3 guys in double digits.
And they're into the top 6 now as well.
I know. Bullets 7-7. I remember at the start of the year when they were struggling, we were saying they could be in for a wooden spooner along
them or
with Cairns and Southeast Melbourne. So Bullets have turned it around. 7-7 now. I think they've been starting to find some good form, like you said. Keandre Cook, James Bateman, of course, with that 51 piece he had about 3 weeks ago. So,
And they did win the Blitz as well. People are
I know.
forgetting about that.
They won the Blitz. Tyrell Harrison won the MVP of that. So
Maybe they went for a little bit of a rough stretch, as other teams can relate to currently.
yeah, we'll get into that, of course, very, very shortly. But a good win for the Bullets. Puts them into the play-in tournament. That midsection table is looking so tight. We'll obviously do a little table update once we round off these games as well. The game after the Bullets in Southeast Melbourne, Hawks United, top of the table clash. This one was going to be a classic. Of course it was. The Hawks, however, obviously, Justin Tatum, the coach of the year potentially. We've always raved on about how good Justin Tatum is. Led the way with the Hawks. 106-93 over Melbourne United. Tyler Harvey, 31 points, continuing a really, really good season. And Sam Froling, one of our top 5 centers in the league, of course, 20 points and 11 boards in the night too. So
And this
really
moves them
good
to the
showing.
top of the table, Finn.
It does.
And 3 games in hand to play on Melbourne as well. Melbourne have played 18 games. The Hawks have only played 15.
Yeah.
So they're in a very good position right now. And I think that top 2 is looking pretty set in stone, isn't it, Finn?
I agree. Yeah, I don't see a team really tipping up the Hawks or Melbourne United. Maybe if Sydney Kings start to really figure it out, there is a chance that they could potentially sneak into that top 2. Obviously, the Hawks and United do look like the best teams in the league. It's crazy how many games Melbourne United have played, though.
Yeah, 18.
Like 18 games already. They've only got 12 games left in hand, whereas some teams like, the Illawarra Hawks and the Breakers, 15 games each.
I mean, we've played 16 now, so we've caught up to the rest of the league. So I feel as though we don't need to keep up with these 2 games a week stretch. We're there with the rest of the teams in terms of games played. In fact, Brisbane are actually the team with the least amount of games played, only 14. So they've got a little bit of catching up to do, and that could come in handy for them, on their impressive hot streak, like we mentioned before. 7-7 now at 500. With games in hand, could be looking good for Brisbane.
Could be a little bit dark horse to maybe hit the top of that play-in tournament. But
Yeah.
I think I'll be very, very surprised if the Hawks and United drop 1 and 2. Sydney is probably the only team that could potentially, I think, tip up the Hawks in Melbourne at this point in the season. Obviously, it's still pretty close. Sydney are really on the tail of the Illawarra Hawks and Melbourne United, but you never know. Things could turn around. It's a very close league, very competitive. Anyone can win any game on any given night. So,
And another team I think could catch them, possibly, Perth Wildcats.
oh yeah,
Because of one man and one man only, Bryce Cotton. I think he's clearly announced himself as the best player in the NBL at this point.
When
after
is he
this insane stretch of
believe it.
games. But should we get into that? The Perth game.
of course. So they
What
had
happened?
the Cairns Taipans. Obviously, before this game, everyone sort of had a pretty. I had a very strong feeling who was going to win this. Cairns obviously have been struggling all season. 3 wins on the year only, and they're continuing to just look pretty abysmal. A 128-92 win for the Wildcats. What, a 36-point win?
They're putting up bloody NBA numbers in terms of
Points.
points in a game. This is insane. 128 points. I know for you NBA fans, that might sound like a standard night. In NBL, that is like unheard of. And for them to be doing it week in, week out, it's pretty insane.
Very insane.
It shows that I think they have the best offense in the NBL when their team is fully healthy and Bryce Cotton is on an absolute hot streak like this. Offensively, I think they're the best.
Bryce
I don't think anyone
Cotton
tops them.
on the night, 44 points. He's continuing to show his form. Obviously, with the 59-point game about 2 weeks ago, he's continuing his form. I'm pretty sure he's gonna break some sort of scoring record if he didn't get his rib injury this year. Yeah. Obviously, he had that 59 piece. I think he dropped another 40 piece.
He's had a couple of other 40 pieces.
He is definitely probably the leading scorer in the league now. I don't have the stat up, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. But incredible form. Shoots well from three. He shoots well on all levels of the floor. Mostly at the rim in this game. I think 14 from 21 from 2-point land. Yeah. 3 of 6 from 3, and obviously gets to the line as well. But when you have a man that's scoring 44 points a night, I'd say in the last, however, since he came back from his rib injury, he's definitely averaging 30 plus.
Yeah, and I think he's clearly taken that number 1 spot on the MVP rankings ladder, especially considering Perth are now in 4th place, and they're on a bit of a hot streak. We had PJC a couple weeks back as top of that MVP ladder.
I don't even think that was a hot take either. Obviously,
it wasn't.
With the Breakers' streak of games that they had, beating Melbourne by however many points, like 30-something points, PJC was putting up crazy numbers. It wasn't even... He was in the top of that MVP ladder, and it wasn't even really a close race. I think he was clear-cut best player in the NBL, and I think he still sits around top 3, top 5.
I think based on stats, he's still definitely up there.
Oh,
obviously,
100%.
When you take into team record, I think it's almost impossible, unless the Breakers completely turn their season around now, I think it's almost impossible he wins that MVP.
They need to do another complete 180, basically, because obviously this last stretch of games has been abysmal. They need to turn it around fast. Obviously, they've about halfway through the season. I think 14 games in hand. I think it's a 30-game season for the NBL. So, look, we don't write them off yet, of course, but after what's happened in round 12, I'm starting to have doubts, unfortunately, Will. Obviously, 0-6 in the last 6 games. Should we get into the first game of the round, obviously, against the Tassie Jack Jumpers?
They say that basketball is a game of runs. I know they're referring to actual in-game teams going on runs, but hopefully they're also referring to the fact of the actual season itself. And the Breakers, they went on a little hot run. Now they're on a cool run. We're going to end it off.
Ice cold.
In a bad way.
Ice cold. They can't get anything going. So the first game of the round, obviously on Thursday night at Event Finder Stadium. Will and I didn't get down for the game. We have our reasons. I was a bit dusty after a Christmas work party. I think Will had jury service.
I did.
So
can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that. There's nothing wrong with that. We can't get into the case, obviously. But we weren't able to get down to the game, but an abysmal performance, I think, to say the least. A game that the boys really needed to bounce back on. The Jack Jumpers are a team that can win on any given night. Obviously, they haven't had the greatest season, about middle of the pack, and a rivalry we've had with Tassie for multiple years now. It's going to be a scrappy game, and look, we came out on the opposite end of what we thought we would at home. In the classic North Shore Event Centre, 76-100, 24-point loss. From the get-go, we weren't in this game, in my opinion.
No. And I mean, it is a bad loss, but people forget Tasmania are the defending champions. They have now jumped into 6th place on the standings at 8-8. So maybe they started off a little bit rough, but still, we should not be losing by 24 points at home at our former home stadium at Event Finder. This should not be happening.
No way.
Taco Fall and Sean Bairstow got the nod to start Finn. We've been dealing with a little bit of injuries here and there throughout the season. But it was an interesting choice from Petteri Kopinen. So
Sam Meninga and Matt Mooney both dead healthy to play the game.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd try switch it up. Obviously, things weren't working. We were 0-4 in the last 4 at the time. So I guess Petteri thought he would try mix it up, see if we could make a change. Look, wasn't good.
No. Sam Meninga did not deserve to lose his starting position. He's been consistently our second best player all season long. And Taco Fall, quite frankly, has not proven anything to go in there and just take his starting role. And we'll get into that a little bit. But Taco Fall, what grade would you give him so far in the first few games that he's played, Finn?
I'm going to give him a pass. Barely, though. Like a C.
Okay. I think his stats on paper, we were talking about this, they're looking all right on paper. He's getting close to double-doubles, and he's already leading the league in blocks, which you'd expect. But when you actually watch the footage and break it down, you realize how much of a defensive liability is on the court.
It's funny, because offensively, he was the best player for us in this game.
Yeah.
16 points, perfect from the field. But defensively, he is the reason why we can't win games.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've talked about this before, the pick and rolls. There was timeouts against Tassie. They have the mic on Petteri. Taco, you need to get up and play more help. But he sits so deep in the paint. And it's the issue that we have. Obviously, you have smaller guy like Jordan Crawford coming off screens, hitting middies, getting to the rim on Taco. That's the reason we can't win. Jordan Crawford on the night, 24 on the bench, off the bench.
Yeah, he's standing in the paint because he knows he's not fast enough to stick with the switch on the pick and rolls, and they're just killing us because he's either going to go up and get blown by, or he's going to stand back and they're going to have a wide open jumper from 3 or mid-range.
Yeah.
And it's just, every team is going to be able to do that to us night in, night out on every possession if they want to, whilst Taco's on the floor.
Exactly.
And it's just too much of a liability. Maybe we could think about playing a zone with Taco.
We have tried that.
I think that could be the best thing.
A 2-3 zone was thrown out quite a bit in this Tassie game, actually. Yeah. And at times it did work, but honestly, a zone in professional basketball gets broken so easily. Obviously, you're forcing people to shoot threes. Not really much inside presence when you have a 7'6" dude standing in the paint. But when you're playing in the NBL and it's full of really, really good basketball players, it's hard to play a zone. Obviously, coaches run plays to break zones. Tassie did just that and shot very well from 3. We couldn't stop them, really. Sean McDonald, Jordan Crawford, just very good from the 3-point line against us. And the zone wasn't really working. So Taco didn't really prove much to me in the Tassie game, to be honest.
No. And then leading on from that game, obviously that was our 5th loss in a row. We went into Adelaide. It was an early game over there in Adelaide. Obviously not wanting to drop 6 wins in a row. I thought, surely this is the Breakers where they turn it around, the turning point of the season. But no, we lost again, 111-94. And I was watching this one closely. The fourth quarter, it was a 2-point game at one point, Finn.
2-point game going into the fourth.
Yeah. And then we just fell apart. And to lose by, 18 points in the end? That's just abysmal. I mean, to be fair, Kendrick Davis just absolutely cooked us. He's continuing to be one of my favorite players in the NBL. He finished this game with 36 points and 9 assists with 5 threes. Whilst I was watching it, it felt like he couldn't miss. I thought he was going to go for 40 in this one, a bit like Bryce Cotton, but he would be another guy that I'd put up there definitely as one of the top 3 in MVP at the moment.
100%. And the thing is, in this game with Kendrick Davis going off, we just, once again, we circle back to the whole issue we have with Taco Fall. Yeah. We circle straight back to it. There's multiple times in this game where Kendrick Davis gets a high pick and roll with Montrezl Harrell or Jarrell Martin, Isaac Humphries, and it just isolates PJC, who is guarding Kendrick Davis. Obviously, Taco Fall just sitting in the paint. Kendrick Davis coming off screens. There's no help. There's no hard show. Kendrick Davis pops a 3, and he was shooting really well on the night, getting to the rim as well, dishing off players. It is a liability. It's something they need to work on. I don't know if it's going to work. Obviously, 14 games in hand. They need to figure it out quick. Offensively, Taco Fall wasn't really horrible. 9 points and 10 boards on the night. He had 2 blocks. Rim protection was great. He tried to stop Montrez as much as he could, although Montrez did get going at the end of the game. Finished with 21 and 10. So, it's an experiment. It's not working yet. 0-6 since acquiring the big man. It's just not looking good, man. It really, really isn't. And it's concerning.
I mean, some people out there might say, how is Taco a defensive liability when he's leading the NBL in blocks per game? But that just doesn't tell the full story of Taco's liabilities. I mean, of course he's going to lead the league in blocks when you're 7'6", but he's just too slow on all ends of the floor. I mean, he almost had a double-double in this one, 9 points, 10 rebounds. But again, you can put the rebounds down to the fact that he's 7'6".
Yeah.
So really, at the end of the day, what is he doing? And he got his 9 points on 3 of 6 shooting. I'd be wanting to see a higher percentage from Taco than 50%.
He's at the rim.
All his shots are at the rim. It should be around the 70% mark at least.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. However, I still think there's definitely some positives to take away from this game. Obviously, PJC once again, 25 and 8. Another great game from him. He still hasn't scored less than 10 points in a Breakers jersey. He scored 11 against Tassie. He was pretty close. But there was some positives. Obviously, we were staying neck and neck with a very talented team with Adelaide. Obviously, no Dejan Vasilovic. He's still out with his hamstring injury. But up until the fourth quarter, a 2-point game, I was pretty happy. I thought maybe if we can string together some things in the fourth quarter, but Adelaide were just too hard to stop. And eventually that was it. 0-6. We keep moving forward. I think we have Sydney moving into our next game.
Sydney and Tasmania next week. So those are 2 very big games. Obviously, Sydney and Tassie are both in the top 6.
Sydney's
so not only do we want to be getting wins, but we want to be giving those teams losses. So those are 2 massive games coming up for us. I think if we lose those 2 games, Finn, I think it's a officially
Time to pull the curtain.
Pull the curtain on the season. So maybe a 1-1. We need to go 2-0 next week, realistically. We need to get back to at least 500 and competing with those other teams around that.
It's not looking good. 6. It's really, really not looking good. I'll be surprised if we lose these next 2 games. I think you're right. I think it's time to pull the curtain.
And that will be in the next episode, so tune into that one.
Hopefully.
We're either going to be very happy or it's going to be a bit of a
It's just going to be more negative slander. I can't believe how much of a roller coaster this season has been for the Breakers. Obviously, pre-season was very average. Didn't even come out with a win. How much we disliked Freddie Gillespie on the team and how... Strangely, we started off the season okay and then went on that crazy run and everything was clicking perfectly with players out, and then the FIBA break hit and everything has just gone completely downhill since then. And, well, we have a chance to turn it around still. There are still games left in hand, but at the same time, I'm getting a bit nervous. Yeah,
I mean, I think at this point, sneaking into that 5th or 6th position would be good for us. That's probably... as high as I think we're going to get. Yeah. Definitely the top 2 is out of question now at this point, unless the Breakers go undefeated for the rest of the season.
Not possible.
So stay tuned. There's going to be lots more Breakers news to come in the following episodes. And that's all we have for you guys for NBL this week. Let's get into the NBA, shall we?
NBA Cup. This is the nitty and gritty time of the NBA Cup. Not a lot of games this week, obviously focusing on this NBA Cup over in Vegas. At the time of the recording, the semifinals, I think maybe they aren't done. We'll double check live on the pod. How is
the Bucks got a 110-102 win over the Hawks. Giannis with a monster game, near triple-double and 4 blocks as well. Dame also added, as he does in the clutch time, massive floater to ice the game. 5 threes along with that as well. So Dame and Giannis doing their thing. Ice Tray couldn't get over the line for the Hawks. So, as we both predicted, I think. Anna, you had...
So we'll go back to our predictions. The first round, we both had the Bucks going through. And then the Knicks and the Hawks game, I actually had the Knicks going through. I thought they would get up, but the Hawks got a pretty nitty-gritty win.
Yep.
That was your prediction from memory.
Yeah.
So, however, we both had the Bucks making the final. So, technically, I'm still sort of there with my predictions being right, other than the Knicks not being able to get the win over the Hawks.
And as for out west, we both had... the Rockets over the Warriors, I believe.
Correct.
That was a controversial game, that one was, as we've heard plenty of. They got the job done in that one. And in the other game, it was Thunder Mavs, and I think we both
had the
Thunder in that one. And currently, it is 84-79 to the Thunder with 7 minutes to go in the fourth. So, you guys will know the result of that one by the time you're watching this. But we'll see. See if our predictions stay alive. I need the Rockets to win in that one. Finn needs the Thunder. But that's a update on the NBA Cup action. It's been quite entertaining, I might add. Who do you think's going to win the NBA Cup MVP, Finn, at this point?
I think Giannis is a pretty safe bet, especially after that performance against the Hawks. Absolute monster. He honestly could be the best player in the league.
I think he is. We'll get into that a bit later on. We're going to do a re-updated version of our award picks from the start of the season, as you might remember. Have a look back at who we originally picked, and who our new picks would be at this. What are we, quarter-way point through the season?
A little bit over,
third of the way. But what else has been happening in the NBA, Finn?
Jokic. Is there much else I need to say?
Nikola Jokic.
See, the thing is, Giannis I have as the best. It could be. But you can't deny that Jokic is once again just having a stupidly good, probably even maybe historic season once again.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he had, at the start of this week against the Hawks, he had 48 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists. Just numbers you never thought you'd see from a center.
No.
Just absolutely insane. He's absolutely cooking. He's averaging his career high in points per game as well.
I think understandably, though, considering how weak the Nuggets are on the offensive end other than him. Jamal Murray just continues. I mean, he had a good game against the Clippers. I'll give him that yesterday. Clippers went down to the Nuggets. It's a sad time, And
I mean, he's incredibly efficient as well, Jokic. I think I saw somewhere that he's shooting in the 40% from three. So,
he is.
I mean, you're going to need that from your big man when Jamal's kind of had a bit of a lackluster year, and MPJ, I've not really heard much about him throughout the season.
Right.
But the Nuggets, I think, as long as they have Jokic, they're always going to be contenders in the West. They can finish 8th place, and they're still going to have a chance at winning the entire thing.
Well,
So,
considering that they've gone and won a chip as well, like their team hasn't drastically changed since that championship season. Obviously, losing Contavious Caldwell-Pope to the Magic, who honestly has been having a really shite season.
yeah.
KCP on the Magic. I mean, I'm not sure if the same results would have been on the Nuggets, but letting him go doesn't seem like a bad thing at this point in time.
I mean, it all comes down to situations and where a player is. Kind of determines how well they play, really. Speaking of, trade season has begun, Finn. Big trade announced earlier today. Big trade? Yeah, I'd say it's a big trade based on...
It'll make some moves. It'll make some moves.
Dennis Schroeder has been traded from the Nets to the Warriors. In return, the Warriors are sending DeAnthony Melton and 3 second-round picks. So I think kind of somewhat of an underpay for Dennis Schroeder, who has had a phenomenal season. I'd go as far as saying he's been the best player on the Brooklyn Nets. Talking about situations, as you mentioned before, I think he's been in a perfect situation there in Brooklyn to excel. And we'll see how he fits into this Warriors team. It's going to be interesting because obviously you've got the greatest point guard of all time, Stephen Curry, on the team.
Greatest of all time?
Greatest of all time, Steph Curry.
Be up there.
Yeah. So what's going to happen there? Is Steph's going to slide to the 2, or Schroeder's going to come off the bench?
I'm not sure. We've been talking about this off pod as well. Like, they could just run 2 point guards. Obviously, Dennis Schroeder and Steph Curry are both very capable scorers.
Steph can play the 2.
Steph can play the 2. He loves running off screens.
He kind of is a 2. If we really get down to it, what does he do best? Shoot threes.
Off the ball screens.
Off ball screens.
Yeah.
He can play the 2 as long as Schroeder can find him, which he seemed to be doing for his Brooklyn Nets teammates. I think it could work, but
I think this is a W for both teams, by the way.
Yeah. 100%.
Considering the Nets, obviously, they started the year off surprisingly better than I thought. Obviously, sitting at 10th in the East now, 10 and 15. They can tank.
Yeah.
I feel like they didn't really have a chance at making a deep playoff run or anything with the roster they had. Dennis Schroeder having a pretty good year. Why not add some more firepower to the Warriors, which they obviously need? A big man would have been better. However,
not many on the market.
This is good for the Nets. I think 3 second-round picks, a chance to rebuild, maybe get some sneaky pickups in some future drafts. Obviously, the future in Brooklyn isn't exactly bright right now. Cam Thomas, obviously, over there. Cam Johnson playing some decent ball. Nick Claxton as well. So, obviously, for right now, this is a pretty good trade for the Nets. I don't know what the Warriors are trying to do. Obviously, sitting at 5th in the West, they're doing pretty solid. I don't know how deep they can make a run with how stacked this conference is, though. So, picking up Dennis Schroeder, I mean, it adds a bit more firepower. You never know. He could be a difference maker.
I saw some people out there saying that the Warriors fleeced the Nets in this one, but I agree with you 100%, Finn. I think the Nets came away with what they wanted in this scenario. They got rid of arguably their best player, which is going to result in them losing a lot more games and having better odds at either Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, or Dylan Harper in this upcoming draft.
Ethically tanking.
Yeah.
Some could say.
Speaking
like
of
the Raptors, who are ethically tanking too, who keep losing games, however, by very, very close. And it's annoying because I quite like the Raptors, but, you know, sitting at 14th, 7 and 19. RJ Barrett having a pretty good year, but they're ethically tanking too. Imagine Cooper Flagg on a team like that.
Speaking of, can I quickly shout out Dylan Harper? I'm very high on Dylan Harper in this upcoming draft. I've gone as far to say to some of you boys that I think Dylan Harper is going to be a better NBA player than Cooper Flagg. I know.
Wow.
Might be crazy to some of you, but he hit a game-winner 3 today earlier for Rutgers in college basketball, Finn. So that was pretty crazy, and he's having a phenomenal year. I'd say a better year than Cooper Flagg.
It's hard to say, 100%. Though, because you got to remember, Cooper Flagg's on Duke.
Yeah.
Duke is one of the best schools in the country. They're obviously going to be picking up strictly good players, despite whether they're a role player or not.
But Dylan Harper also has Ace Bailey besides him at Rutgers.
Yeah,
the projected 2 and 3 pick in the draft. Ace Bailey also, I'm very high on Ace Bailey. Both of them, I think I would take them long-term over Cooper Flagg. But you guys let me know if that's a crazy take.
So you're telling me you'd rather take these 2 guys from Rutgers over Cooper Flagg, who's a 9, 10 forward who can do everything?
From what I've seen so far in the college basketball season, yes, I would. I still think Cooper Flagg will go 1 because he's got probably more potential in there. Mm-hmm. But I think based on season stats, they've played better. They're winning games for Rutgers, and I just feel as though they'd fit the mold of an NBA player very well, I might add.
I just think Cooper Flagg's the future, though.
Yeah.
Like, he fits current NBA demigods. Really tall players that can put the ball on the floor, dribble around, shoot, are athletic. It's exactly what you need. I don't see why Cooper Flag, he's going to go number 1, wherever he goes.
I feel as though with players like Wemby last year, no matter what team got the number 1 pick, they were drafting Wemby.
Oh, absolutely.
It was absolutely not even up for debate. I feel as though that's not the case with Cooper Flag.
Wow.
I feel as though there could be a team out there that if they get the first pick and Cooper Flag doesn't fit their system, I'm trying to think of a team. Maybe like the Rockets? No, not the Rockets.
I think any team takes Cooper Flag.
You think any team takes
Honestly,
Cooper Flag?
Why would you not want to take...
I don't see it.
He's been going crazy since his high school days. He's proven that I think he's going to be pretty NBA ready. Which is crazy to say, a young guy coming out of Duke with a one and done. Somebody that's done like 3 or 4 years in college obviously comes out a little more NBA ready. But I think, he's already showcasing on Duke. Obviously, he's not the most consistent player. He's on a college team filled with systems, filled with plays that he has to do. But with his stature, his ability, his athletic ability, his ability to shoot the ball, defensively, he's quite sound as well. I just don't see why he would fall any further than 1.
I disagree with him, but we'll wait to see. The NBA draft, it's a little while away now.
Yeah, heaps of time.
Yeah.
You never know, he might...
We'll see what happens.
I don't want to
wish
wish anything on him, but you never know what happens.
I still like Cooper Flag, and I think he's going to be a great basketball player. And yeah, he's definitely the number 1 odds-wise. Definitely odds-on number 1 pick for the draft, but I just feel as though if I was a GM, I might be a little bit higher on Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. Anyway,
is that bias though? Because you just love them so much.
Well, I don't love them.
Wow,
I don't
high.
support any college basketball team.
No,
I'm just high on them because from what I have seen personally, they have been playing phenomenally. But that's all. Back to NBA news. We don't cover college basketball here, but there it is. First time on the pod, college basketball. What else has been happening around the league, Finn? Trade season, obviously, Dennis Schroeder. What other trades
hasn't really been much else just yet. Thomas Bryant off to Indiana. A trade.
Wow.
A trade. Woohoo. Honestly, I don't know what big trades could happen. I'm sure something will happen. Something's going to come across the desk. But, Thomas Bryant to Indiana, was it really needed?
No, definitely not. I mean, they needed big man depth, and there's not many big men out there available.
No.
But one team to watch out for this trade season is none other than my team,
Portland Trailblazers. And
you've
you've said in the past,
let's
blow it up. Let's blow it up.
Our only untouchables at this point are Scoot, Shaden, and Donovan Klinkong. Sorry, spelled that wrong.
What do you, as a Portland fan, you have 3 untouchables.
Yeah.
And
Tamani Kamara. 4
untouchables. What do you want in return?
I want in return?
Yeah,
okay.
What do you want in return?
So, get rid of DeAndre Ayton. That's going to clear space for Klinkong to enter into the starting
Williams,
lineup.
I guess.
Obviously, we're going to be mostly after picks. Picks is the future. But I feel as though we could put together maybe a package like the Warriors. They need a big man. Tell me who says no in this trade proposal. DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant, might I add, to the Golden State Warriors. I feel as though those 2 players could both get good game time and contribute to a Warriors championship run.
Mm-hmm.
In return, give us Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Pajemski.
Any picks?
I know, and maybe like 2 picks. Maybe that might be an overpay, but
I don't know who says
I feel as though
do the Warriors
Kuminga, they obviously want to move on from Kuminga.
Yeah, they're already Steve Kerr has been neglecting him since the moment he got drafted.
Yeah, and now they've got Dennis Schroeder as well. They don't need Brandon Pajemski either. I feel as though these 2 players would add obviously more probably play now ready guys, a bit more experienced than Pods and Kuminga. And for us, we get 2 young players. Pods can come off the bench, and Kuminga would probably slot into that starting power forward position in place of Jeremy Grant. I think it's a win-win for both teams. But you guys let me know who says no in that one.
That's a real interesting one.
I don't know. Thought of that on the spot. I haven't even thought about this.
Sleep on it.
There's plenty more out there. The Lakers.
The Lakers need to change something. They've honestly been on a... The Lakers have been on a bit of a slide as well. Where have they fallen to in the Western Conference? 10th in the Western Conference, 13-12, after, honestly, a really good start to the year. Maybe JJ Redick wasn't the answer.
Yeah.
Which is crazy
Definitely
to say, because he looked like he was going to be a really phenomenal coach.
Oh, and I saw a crazy stat, Finn. Darvin Ham is undefeated in the NBA Cup.
In the NBA Cup. I know.
He won it with the Lakers last year, and now he's on the Bucks as an assistant coach, and they've yet to lose, obviously, in the finals. Maybe Darvin Ham is an excellent coach.
I think I have a friend that might say otherwise. He was on the podcast
on the
about
pod
3
last
weeks
week.
ago.
What was last? No,
Like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
He would say otherwise.
Yeah, he would.
But in terms of Clippers land, I thought I would just highlight this a little bit.
With the Clippers?
Well, we've dropped our last two down to 14 and 12 after I absolutely just went crazy. Kawhi Leonard still keening back into training.
Oh, is he?
Pardon?
Is he?
The reports have said that he is getting back into training. Non-contact, though. So he's getting involved with team drills.
What a shame.
It's a good start. There was rumors that he'd be back before Christmas. That's in 10 days. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, sir.
But in terms of our team, we've been a little bit shaky the last week. Obviously, dropping a game to the Nuggets yesterday, and Jokic might have had his worst game of the season. So, not great. Norman Powell has been a little bit... He's calmed down a bit. Obviously, started the year shooting crazy numbers from everywhere and putting up some good points. James Harden had a pretty average game yesterday too. So,
what about KPJ, Finn?
Wow! What a player.
You said to me that he might be one of your best players.
No. Not one of our best. I liked him.
He was your best player the other day.
Until I looked at his shooting splits, and then I think,
there wasn't anything else you looked at before that you might not have liked him for? Maybe what got him thrown out of the NBA?
Yep. But he's there now. And if Josh Primo was there too, then it'd be a great team. But Josh Primo obviously got waived last year. I think we still have a chance. Wait for Kawhi Leonard to come back. I don't think any trades need to be happening with the Clippers. I think we have a pretty solid roster. So I'll be surprised if we make any trades. Zubac is like third in the league in rebounds, by the way.
Yeah, and you've got a great young and up-and-coming team, like full of potential, and your future's sorted.
You want to know? Jordan Miller. Let me get started on Jordan Miller, our second-round pick from last year. He's been hooping. He's been hooping.
You had Brandon Boston as well.
Trenton Flowers on our G League team.
Brandon Boston's killing it in New Orleans.
Yeah, don't tell me. Ask me why we waived him. I couldn't give you an answer.
Finn.
Couldn't give you an answer. Cavs still. The Cavs are still first in the East, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna.
The Celtics are catching up. They're
gonna jump.
They're gonna jump
at some point. But I think the Cavs are gonna finish second.
Although the
Bucks,
the Magic
are coming.
The Magic are currently sitting in third, and with Franz and Paolo out, they're probably going to drop down too.
The Bucks are.
I mean, to be fair, which is hilarious though, because in that first quarterfinal of the NBA Cup against the Bucks, no Franz or Paolo. It was a close game.
It was until Damian Lillard arrived.
Dame Dollar.
Massive three and then a dunk as well. Iced the game.
It was also really surprising how close the game today against the Bucks was. The Hawks are the most mid team in the NBA. However, watching the Hawks play, Jalen Johnson is so good.
I'll say it now. Give me Jalen Johnson over Trae Young.
Let's move on to our award predictions update, because I can't...
Humankind on the line. Death beam pointing down at us. You need a shot to save the universe. Give me Jalen Johnson over Trae Young. Anyway.
You can sleep on that one. We'll go into our award predictions. Obviously, to start the year, we'll start with MVP. I had Luka. Well, who'd you have?
I had Giannis.
Your pick is looking far greater than mine.
Although, to be fair, the Mavericks have turned their season around. They're on a real hot streak at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, team record comes into play when you're taking into account who's the MVP. But yeah, I'd give the slight nudge to myself if I... the slight nod to myself. I don't know what I was saying there, guys.
We're about a quarter way through. Would you change your pick for MVP?
Would I change... Okay, quarter way through... For me, personally, I'm going to stick with Giannis. I'm going to stand on that. I think it's between him and Jokic, for me.
Yeah.
They're both putting up crazy numbers. Much better numbers than their previous MVP seasons. Obviously, Jokic is a previous 3-time MVP winner and Giannis 2-time MVP winner. And these are both their best seasons yet. I'd have it between those two, but I'm going to give the nudge to the Bucks because I think they'll finish with a better record.
I think at this point in time, I'm changing mine. Voters fatigue exists. Jokic doesn't win, regardless of how good his season is. Because a 4th MVP in 5 years, that is unheard of. Not even LeBron could do that. So I just don't think they can give it to him. So I think I'd be sort of coming over to your train as well and jumping on this Giannis train. Because, I mean, he's leading the league in points, is he not?
Yeah, he is. He's up
Defensively, he's great. He passes the ball well. He's starting to shoot.
He's leading the NBA in mid-range shots percentage.
Crazy.
That's crazy. People called this guy a terrible shooter. And yes, he's not found it from the 3-point line yet. But he's developed that mid-range game to be one of the best in the NBA. which is absolutely crazy. I never thought I'd see that. His free throws still need some work, though,
Yeah.
Finn. I mean, get
He's
them
too
up
bad. He's
within
too
10
big.
seconds, could you?
Yeah. Depoy?
Depoy.
So I had Bam, that's turned out to be a pretty average pick for Depoy, and you had Wemby.
I had Wemby, and I'm again going to stand on this, Finn. I'm sticking with Wemby.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely some other players up there challenging him, but he's going to lead the NBA in blocks per game, and he's just the way he affects players' mindsets when they're driving to the rim and they just see the 7'5" Frenchman standing in front of them.
Terrifying.
And they run the other way. They don't
Yeah.
even put a layup up. I think that in itself is just probably the best defensive impact a player can bring to a team. So I'm sticking with Wemby. How about you?
I'm definitely not sticking with Bam. I don't think he's been bad, but he hasn't been great. Dyson Daniels is somebody, if they wanted to give it to a guard this year, you never know. Obviously, he has a chance at breaking a record in deflections already. I don't know if he's leading the league in steals or not, but
He
he's
is, definitely.
leading the league in steals. But yeah, Wemby just being 7'5". It's a shame he's on the Spurs because obviously they're having a slightly underwhelming season. I mean, they are the Spurs. Defensively, Wemby's probably going to win it because he will lead the league in blocks. And I honestly, no one else really springs to mind. There's probably someone I'm forgetting, but Wemby as well, probably up there.
No. So moving on. Most improved. Who do you got, Finn?
Well, I had Sengun. How's that working out for me? A horrible take.
Not as bad as my one. But...
Yours might be worse. Will.
They're
Shaden
both putting up
Sharp?
similar numbers. To...
Shaden Sharp?
I think they're both clearly not going to win it.
No.
But I think they're both equally as bad. I don't think either of them have changed their stats per game from what they did last year. But yeah, I think it's safe to say we're both going to switch up on this one. Who do you have?
Well, I think it'd just be stupid not for me to go Norman Powell.
Norman Powell.
Obviously, I thought he was going to come off the bench. I thought Kawhi Leonard was going to start. He hasn't even started a game this year for obvious reasons. So I think I'm going to slot in Norman Powell. Obviously, there's a few other players that could be in there, like Grady Dick, having a massive improvement in all of his scoring abilities. But imagine the narrative of giving a 10-year NBA veteran the most improved player of the year rather than a sophomore. And I think that would be cooler. And he has a definite chance at making an all-star appearance, but I think he needs to improve his scoring ability a little bit. He's gone a bit cold since his hamstring injury.
Norman Powell, showing love to your Clippers guy. I love to see it, Finn. I wish I could have stuck with Shaden Sharp, but I'd be an idiot not to switch up my pick here. I'm going to go with Tyler Hero from the Heat. This might be a bit out of left field, but he's really been quietly cooking down there in Miami. I think he's been their best player this year so far. He's averaging 24 a game. And I think, Tyler Hero. It's not a massive points increase, but there's a few players that have stood out, like the guys you mentioned. Also, Evan Mobley on the Cavs. He's playing really well. Though. He just got hurt, so that's why I'm not going with him. I'll stick with Tyler Hero. Well, not stick with him. Switched it up. Tyler Hero. Moving on. What do we have next, Finn?
Rookie of the year, I believe.
Rookie of the year.
I had Zach Edey. Wasn't a bad pick to start there, but he's obviously come down with an injury. Your one I didn't hate when we first put this before the season started, but Reed Shepherd for Will, I honestly thought that would have been a really good pick, but then once the season started, we realized he was not going to play many minutes this year. It's slowly becoming it's not going to happen. It's impossible.
No. If I could switch it up, you'd asked me this 2 days ago, I would have gone with Jared McCain.
I would have too.
I think anyone would have, but he's just unfortunately torn his meniscus.
So unfortunate.
So, he's going to be out for, was it a season-ending injury?
I think it might be, likely.
It's going to take him out of contention for the award anyway.
100%. So obviously we can't go Jared McCain.
My new pick is going to be none other than Spurs point guard Stephon Castle.
Yeah, I'm sort of leaning towards him as well.
Right.
Absolutely, he's been pretty good. Dalton Connect, obviously up there as well. He had a really good stretch of games about a month ago. He's sort of quieted down a little bit, to be fair.
He has a little bit.
Stephon Castle has
He's slowly getting better.
Stephon Castle has really surprised me this year. Start the season, not a lot of minutes, not a lot of impact, but he's earned his minutes. Defensively, he's really good, a good passer, and he's offensively quite well too. He works well with Wemby. So
another name I'll throw out there, Finn. He's probably in the number 2 position for me right now. Could easily get to number 1. This will make Liam happy. Yavisi Missy. I don't know if I said that right. Don't quote me on it.
Eves Messi. I call him EVC Messi because that's just the meme.
It's how it looks.
Defensively, he's outstanding as a rookie.
He's grabbing. I think he's leading rookies in boards as well. So I mean, he's
a
perfect
great
in the pick
role
and roll
player
as well.
already. Already, he's a good role player. So I think,
and it's a very weak draft class.
Oh, absolutely,
incredibly weak.
So if you had to pick one, who would you go?
You know what? I'll go Eves Messi.
All right,
Eves Messi.
I'm gonna go Dalton Connect. I think he's gonna turn it around a little bit.
Fair enough.
Sixth man of the year. We'll end off on that.
Sixth man of the year. You went with Norman Powell, your guy.
Which, look, realistically,
an award on your
realistically, that would have been a great pick.
Yeah.
No Kawhi Leonard, so he can't exactly win it anymore.
Would he not have been starting anyway, though, at the 2?
Nah.
James Harden's your 1. Norman's a 2.
No, he's not.
Norman Powell's a 2.
Kendrick Nunn, sorry.
Kendrick
Dunn. Chris Dunn, not
Dunn.
Kendrick. It's hot in here. Our lineup now, if Kawhi Leonard would be back, would be James Harden, Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr., Kawhi Leonard, and Zubac.
Okay.
Norman Powell would come off the bench still.
So obviously he's winning most improved for you now.
I think so.
So who's your new sixth man pick?
Peyton Pritchard.
Oh, you stole it from me.
Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah, I think it's clear.
His
right
numbers off the bench, efficiency, 3-point makes, everything is off the charts.
I'm so happy because I picked him up in fantasy.
Great pick.
No one drafted him, so he was a free agent. I just saw him sitting there and I was like, why not? And he's arguably been the third best player on the Celtics this year. I know that's correct. Derek White still I'd probably take.
Porzingis.
But he's a clear fourth so far this season. Porzingis has been injured.
Good point.
And Drew Holiday's definitely had a drop off slightly.
I just think because Drew Holiday's, they don't really need him. He's there for one thing only, it's to run the point guard and play defense.
Just for you, those of you who were interested in who my pick was, it was Malik Monk, the guy I thought should have won it last year. I think he's having a bit of a down year, so I don't think he's really in contention anymore at this point. No. He could if he steps it up, but obviously his role's gone down a little bit with the addition of DeRozan there in Sacramento. Yeah. But yeah, both of us going with Peyton Pritchard, absolutely cooking this year. Let us know down below who you guys would pick for all of these awards.
Fair enough. And that's another episode on the Fast Break Pod, episode 16 in the books. Please, breakers, don't break my heart. Yeah. Turn it around for us. Hopefully we come to episode 17 with a big smile on our face. Or
we might not show up.
We might not be here.
We'll be here.
We might not be here.
Worry,
so,
thick and thin.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.